Hey, welcome back to another week of RC Audio Sports Weekly Vodcast. Haley Wilson, Coach Robert Villafranca, and I am Bobby Mendez. We thank you for joining us. We want to go over what we're going to talk about today. It's going to be a little bit of 28-5A volleyball, chance to talk about Harlandale and McCollum's week, as well as transitioning into some football. That's 12A-5A Division One. We'll talk about the Harlandale Indians and the McCollum Cowboys, what they're coming up against and what they've done. And then we'll each give a shout out to some of the athletes here for these two districts, and also feature a new feature here, which is web gems, so something that we find on the internet and we think is pretty cool. So we'll share that with you. Let's start off first. Let's start off with Haley on a volleyball review. Let's talk about the Harlandale Indians volleyball team.
Yeah, absolutely, Bobby. So Harlandale came up with two pretty big wins this week, defeating Eagle Pass 3-0 and defeating Medina Valley a little bit closer of a game, 3-2. As you can tell, went to 5 sets, so it was definitely a nail biter. But in their first game against Eagle Pass, Harlandale really dominated the entire game. Win never scored more than 15 points in a set, so they came out on fire and kept that momentum from some of the good games that we talked about last week. In that match, Serena Hernandez led the Indians with 10 kills. Chanasty followed close behind with 9 kills, and then Kayla Reyes was doing it all on defense with 24 assists and 9 digs in that match. So switching over to Medina Valley, like I said, that's when things got a little bit closer, a little bit more interesting for the Indians. Medina Valley actually took the first set 26-24, but Harlandale stormed back, took sets 2, took set 3. Then Medina Valley came back and took the 4th set, but Harlandale ended up tying up the 5th set with a win 15-12. So it looked like a really defensive effort, really strong defensive effort on paper all around. 4 Harlandale players posted double-digit digs, but overall, pretty strong games this week. Brings Harlandale to 9-1 in district play, and then brings Medina Valley down to 6-4 in district play. So, Coach, I mean, what are your thoughts on this week's interesting matches there?
Well, I thought going into the Eagle Pass game, Haley, that it was a little bit of a trap game for Harlandale. Mm-hmm. They were coming off of a big win over their rivals. They had a Medina Valley down the road on their next game, and I thought that Eagle Pass win was really going to indicate just their level of focus, and they took the long road trip down to Eagle Pass, played win, as you said, swept them in 3 and really dominated the game, took care of business. So it speaks to the mental focus there, and of course. The mental focus was needed in the following game against Medina Valley. What a game! A 5-set instant classic there. The Indians come up victorious, and they sweep the series against Medina, which pretty much assures that Harlandale will finish in a 1st or a 2nd place, unless there's some level of collapse here. You would expect Harlandale to finish in 1st or 2nd place, and now. It'll take 3 losses before Medina Valley can leapfrog Harlandale after Harlandale and McCollum swept the series against Medina Valley. In that game, Haley, Kayla had 43 assists. Chanasty, she plays a full rotation, 26 kills and 25 digs on the back row. So Chanasty and Kayla, and really the whole team. Julissa was outstanding as well. I can do roll call there, but an outstanding team effort by the Indians there in Castroville, Texas on Tuesday night.
Thanks for our good friends over at Medina Broadcast Valley Network. I was able to catch the last few games of that. It was pretty interesting and very intense as the Harlandale Indians volleyball team plays very intense. Haley, let's go back to you. What is next for the Indians?
Yeah, so the Indians are going to play Floresville this Friday, the 15th, at 6:30 p.m. It's going to be at Harlandale at home. And again, it has everything that it needs to be to look like it's going to be a decent match. Floresville is 7-3 in district, led by a lot of seniors on the team. So I have no doubt that I'm sure Floresville is coming in with some firepower, and they're amped, and Harlandale is going to have to continue to put up, a strong performance as they had over the last couple of weeks.
All right, great. Let's move on over to the McCollum Cowboys volleyball team. And Coach, let's go to you. This week, the Cowboys faced off against the Medina Valley Panthers and the Southside Cardinals. Let's talk about them.
Yeah, the Cowboys didn't have the luxury of a trap game. They had to come back after that big match against the Indians. They had to come right back and play Medina Valley. And again, I would say Harlandale, McCollum, Medina Valley are the top three teams in the district. So a tough bounce back game for McCollum. Losing to Harlandale in 3 sets. They come over to host Medina Valley at the Dennis R. Smith Gymnasium. They lose the first set, Bobby and Haley, McCollum does. So I think that was a critical point in the McCollum Cowboys volleyball season there. They could have folded, but again, they showed a lot of mental toughness. They showed a lot of discipline, led by their coach, Valerie Vieira there. They brought themselves back together, refocused, reoriented, and won the next 3 sets to beat Medina Valley in 4 sets. So the McCollum Cowboys have also swept a season series against Medina Valley, and McCollum Cowboys sitting at 9 wins and 1 loss as well. So McCollum and Harlandale tied for first heading into the last 4 games of the season. So it should be very interesting. Last night, or I beg your pardon, on Tuesday night, the McCollum Cowboys hosted Southside, and they dominated that game 3 sets. Didn't let the Cardinals score more than 18 points in that match. And so again, 9-1 after that match for the Cowboys. In that game, Kylie Dominguez, 17 assists and 3 digs. She was big. Going back to the game against Medina Valley, Haley Hurtado in a losing effort for the Panthers, 26 kills. Samantha Estrada had 23 digs in that. Big Jessa Palmer, we saw her just a week ago. Boy, she's a left-handed. She can really swing the sword. She had 17 kills against the Panthers and 24 digs for guess who? Dominique Guerra, that outstanding libero for the Cowboys.
Yeah, and like you said, Coach, for me, I'm most impressed by McCollum's ability to bounce back from that initial loss to Harlandale, especially it being a high stakes game. But put up 2 dominant performances, like you said. The pendulum could have kind of swung either way. Looked like there was, again, on paper, really strong defense in that Southside game, and so. I know you're going to touch on it, Coach, but it looks like that the Cowboys also have a tougher game coming up tomorrow night, or the 15th for whenever everyone's listening to this. But
indeed, Southwest Legacy on Friday night, and it's a big game for McCollum. They can actually mathematically and officially secure a playoff spot. I think the direction that they're heading, everybody expects them to be at the dance and postseason play, but it can happen officially with a victory against Southwest Legacy Friday night. Big game for the Cowboys.
Well, that's what's coming up for the McCollum Cowboys. That's going to wrap up our volleyball talk. But hey, just follow RC Audio Sports for all 28 5A volleyball action. Harlandale, McCollum, they're on top of the bracket right now in the standings. So a very exciting time for both teams. But let's move over to the football side of it. Let's get into it with Harlandale. Harlandale has come off a tough loss against the Seguin Matadors last week. Haley, Harlandale's falling behind right now, and they're just having a little bit of a trouble. But Seguin Matadors, they're a really good team.
Yeah, and I wasn't able to be there on Friday night, but on paper, right, it looks like Seguin just got off to a really hot start, and Harlandale wasn't really able to recover. So I know Seguin put up 13 points in that initial first quarter and really looked like they dominated the offense at 324 yards, while the Indians were only able to put up 100. So it just looks, again, on paper, like the Indians weren't really truly able to get going offensively. I know, Joseph Rodriguez, a quarterback who usually has, pretty explosive games, was only held to 62 yards. Saxon Langenberg held to 56. And so Seguin, on the other hand, had really, really strong performances from quarterback Troy Fallout, and both rushing and receiving firepower from Devin Matthews and Josh Jackson. So again, like I had said, Coach Villafranca, I wasn't there, but for you, I mean, what seemed to be the difference maker last Friday night?
Well, it's just as you said, Haley. I just don't think that the offense was able to get off the ground, and just they weren't able to move the ball. The silver lining, if there is one in this, is the defense really played very well. Had to defend a couple of short fields, gave up 13 points in the first quarter, and then 10 the rest of the game. But of those 23 points, two touchdowns or a couple of scores came after the Harlandale defense defending short fields. So they were, backs against the wall for much of the ball game. The Harlandale defense also came up with a goal line stand, recovered a fumble at their own 1 yard, denied Seguin another score. So silver lining, the front seven, especially on the defensive side of the ball for the Indians, have been playing very well. And I think they, had a good game against Seguin. Probably the spot that you would like to would say that there's a positive there. But again, the offensive side of the ball is going to have to regroup. Buda Johnson coming up, and boy, their defense is just as tough as Seguin's.
Yeah, Coach Brandon Molina, the defensive coordinator for the Harlandale Indians, has really done a phenomenal job with his defense. But you brought up what's next for Harlandale. It's going to be a tough one. Let's move on forward and talk about the McCollum Cowboys. They had a tough one also against New Braunfels Canyon. Coach, we were there at that game. It was really hard for McCollum to get going. New Braunfels, just too many athletes on that field for McCollum to keep up with.
Canyon certainly has an arsenal of weapons. There quite a few athletes, but Bob, the McCollum Cowboys gained 347 yards total yards against the New Braunfels Canyon. So that offense was clicking a little bit better. The problem was that 347 yards only translated to 3 scores. On the other hand, New Braunfels Canyon, with all those arsenals, 497 total yards, and they were able to translate those yards into 58 points. Again, Sean Tejeda had a very good night offensively. He was 21 for 38 to 236 yards. He threw a couple of touchdown passes. And, the offense, again, McCollum offense was able to move the ball. Just the downside to that was unable to stop the Canyons offense. Of course, Xavier Nolan was our player of the game. What an athlete he is, 168 total yards and 3 touchdowns for Xavier to be named player of the game in the game against McCollum.
Yeah, and again, wasn't able to be there for that one, but McCollum just looked like they had a lot of zip. I mean, they were averaging 11 yards New Braunfels was averaging, 11 yards per carry, didn't turn the ball over at all, didn't punt or turn the ball over once, but didn't punt the ball the entire game. So for me, McCollum got off to such a hot start this season. So I'm rooting for them to kind of get back up to that confidence level, right, that they had in that first couple of games and in those first couple of wins, starting with their game coming up this Friday, which should be a tougher one. But Coach, I know you could touch on it. I know they're playing Seguin this Friday night, which should be a pretty tough matchup.
Yes, they are, Haley. And Seguin 3-0 in district play. The McCollum Cowboys 0-3. But I'm going to tell you, I'm just saying, I think the McCollum offense matches up very well against this Seguin defense. And 3-0 and 0-3. I'm just saying this is going to be a good one. It's at Memorial Stadium. You might want to be there live. Of course, we'll carry the game here on our channel here on our RC Audio Sports YouTube channel. But just saying, I think it's going to be a good one.
All right. Well, we'll definitely have that game covered, and we usually start at about 6:45 with some pregame. So we'll be there as the McCollum Cowboys take on the Seguin Matadors. That's football in review. So we've covered volleyball for both Harlandale and McCollum, and football for both schools as well. Haley, do you have any shout outs that you want to recognize?
Yeah, this week. So I'm saving my shout out this week. It was tough to pick because I wasn't at the games like I usually am. But this week I'm giving my entire shout out to the McCollum girls volleyball team. as a former athlete, and again, you guys can speak to it, I know how easy it can be to get bogged down by a loss, and especially a big, rivalry loss with everyone in the building. And I'm just really impressed with the way that they've been able to come back. They posted up 2 really solid wins this week, and they're back on track, and they're back in business, making it interesting for the rest of the teams in the district, and then interesting for us to sit and talk about. So my shout out this week is going to the McCollum, the girls volleyball team.
Nice. How about you, Coach?
Well, I've got a few myself. This past week, the San Antonio Sports All-Star Football game that will be played on January 8th at the Alamo Dome announced its rosters, and 12-5A is very well represented from Vets Memorial. JC Solitaire, running back, we know that name. Omarie Wingate, an offensive lineman, and Kiefer Pareda, a defensive end for Vets Memorial, will be on the squad. And from New Braunfels Canyon, Luke Elliott and Cameron Bibbins. I think you called Bibbins' name out quite a bit this past Friday, Bobby. And then representing Harlandale, outside linebacker Joshua Perez. So those young men will be representing 12-5A, their schools and their communities at the San Antonio All-Star Football game that's going to be played at the Alamo Dome on January 8th.
All right, great. If I could recognize some teams, I will. I want to. Haley took one of them, which is the McCollum volleyball team. I want to do the Harlandale Indian volleyball team too. Those ladies are playing at the top of their game right now, and they are representing very well on the volleyball court. Also want to bring up that 5K run, Coach, for the senior class of Harlandale. Will be there Saturday morning as well, so I'll see you there as well. So I want to remind everyone about that as well. And that brings us up to our
Bob.
Yep.
Let me you bring up the 5K run, and I've got another shout out that can't wait until next week. Just today, 28-5A cross country district meet, and Sebastian Moreno is the district champion. He runs for the Harlandale Indian squad, and so he's a district champ cross country runner. He'll move on, and he'll run with Marcus Rojas and Alexandra Martinez from Harlandale, qualified to run at the regional.
Coach, that name Sebastian Moreno sounds a little familiar. Would he happen to have been one of the student athletes of the week at one point?
Yes, he was homecoming king as well. And so we've heard Sebastian Moreno's name called out a few times this year. He's quite a young man.
All right, well, good for him and good for everyone that is doing well in this time of the year. Now is our newest treat. We want to call it the Web Gem. It's something that we've found on the internet, and we like it, and we want to share it with you guys. So, Coach, if you mind queuing that up.
I'm going.
And that was the McCollum Cowboy girls basketball team, as they are hyped and ready to go for this upcoming season. So we're happy to see that, and we're ready to also transition to get ready for some basketball as well. So we'll have that coverage as well. Any final thoughts from either one of you?
Well, Coach Ernest Lopez is the coach for the McCollum Cowboys girls basketball team. So a little credit to him for producing that video. And we'd be glad to show yours if on your official team pages. If you have a video that you would like us to consider for a future show, make sure you tag us to make sure that we see it. And we will be glad to share that with our followers here on our podcast.
And that tag is at RC Audio Sports, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Haley, any final thoughts for you?
I'm just excited to be back out on the field tomorrow. That's all I got.
All right, that's where we'll be. We'll be tomorrow evening or later tonight. We will be at Harlandale Memorial Stadium as the McCollum Cowboys take on the Seguin Matadors. That kickoff is set for 7, but if you tune in about 15 minutes before that, we'll have a little bit of a pregame for you. And that's going to do it. We want to thank everyone for joining us. For our RC Audio Sports crew, Coach Robert Villafranca and Haley Wilson, I want to thank you. And of course, our sponsors that we'll have up on the screen here in just a moment.